prospers. Many in the North thought it would be over in 3 months, but the South wins at Manassas. Fries McClellan, back from Richmond, invades Maryland, but is checked at Antietam. Wins at Chancellorsville, but is bloodily repulsed at Gettysburg in the greatest battle ever fought in the Western Hemisphere.
By leaving the public peace to the mercy of each state government, catastrophe has resulted. The acts of the United States must be supreme and binding on states as well as individuals.
There are certain fences that protect people against wrongs. But the governing powers are always ready to remove them. There are certain powers not necessary to carry out effective government. But government will always be trying to assume these powers.
Of course you will defend the rights of states, Jefferson. You're a Southerner, a slave owner.
I did not approve of slavery.
Yet you own slaves.
I fought to abolish slavery in Virginia. And didn't you sign a constitution that specified that the importation of slaves would be allowed for 20 years?
It was a necessary compromise. There would have been no constitution without it.
Whatever the case, more than slavery is involved in this Civil War. The financial and mercantile interests of the North are trying to dominate the nation. That is the real cause of the war. And these are the interests you did everything you could to encourage, Hamilton.
I encourage the interests of those who fought continentally, and not just in local terms. The businessman, the professional man, the educated. Jefferson, these people were vital for an enduring union.
You thought in terms of an artificial aristocracy based on wealth and power, ignoring virtue or talent.
What more artificial aristocracy than your friends, the ignorant and arrogant planters of the South?
Gentlemen, the war is over. The slaves are free. The first modern, all-out, total war won by the North because of superior manpower and productivity. But at what cost? What terrible cost? More than 1 million casualties. The South in ruins.
But the Union saved. Thank God for that.
It surprises me that you feel so strongly.
Do you imagine that I love this country less than you?
You said you considered the Constitution a frail and worthless fabric.
Yet I fought with all my energy to get it adopted.
I admit you did.
You see, I never expected perfection to come from imperfection.
The second crisis, the Great Depression. After the defeat of Germany in the First World War, the war to end all wars, a period of political conservatism, economic growth, and rapid urbanization occurred in the United States. By 1920, over half the population lived in cities. During the next 10 years, the number of Americans engaged in farming continued to dwindle. Comments, gentlemen?
When Americans exchange their farms for factories and their open spaces for slums, when they pile upon each other in cities, then individualism will be lost. And people will consume each other.
Only when all kinds of industry are concentrated in the city can each person find his proper work. It is only the city, with its variety, that can give the individual choice and stimulation. What choice does an enterprising person have in a society of cultivators?
In the 1920s, Americans lost themselves in jazz and sports. The automobile, radio, and movies became major industries. Mass production required mass consumption, so advertising developed. Industry consolidated into gigantic corporations.
All enlightened men should desire the prosperity of commerce and those who practice it. When merchants prosper, all prosper.
Whenever you see exaggerated fortunes, you also see misery and stagnation. We must not convert the government into an instrument for extracting money from the weak for the benefit of the powerful.
But the prosperity is flawed. Tariffs are high, and a large proportion of income goes to a small number of people. Now a mania for speculation grips the land. There is a fever to get rich quick, and everyone gambles on stocks and real estate. The stock market zooms to record highs. Paper millionaires are made overnight. The banks extend vast amounts of credit. On September 9th, 1929, the market begins to slide downward. On October 24th, Black Thursday, the market crashes. Panic selling, suicides, millions lose every cent they have. Banks fail, factories are shut down, business is paralyzed. The Great Depression has begun.
This is the inevitable and terrible result of believing that paper can produce as solid wealth as hard labor on the earth. Of people forsaking the land that made them self-reliant. Of rampant speculation abetted by the government. The interests of millions have been sacrificed to the avarice of a few, and meaningless scraps of paper called money or stocks or bank credits have been used by cheats to fleece the public, while government looks the other way. When will we learn that nothing can produce but nothing?
I cannot defend the harm resulting from unbridled speculation. But it is obvious that industrialization has made for a general level of well-being that no other civilization has even approached. I predict a government capable of these accomplishments will also be capable of solving the problem of economic depression.
What you desire, Hamilton, is more meddling by the government. Hasn't the government loaded Americans with enough debt? It can best serve now by keeping its hands out of our pockets.
Forgo your romantic notions, Jefferson. America is not a simple society of gentlemen farmers. It is huge and complex. The federal government cannot abdicate its responsibilities. Salvation will come from the energetic action it takes in regulating commerce, currency, and banking.
Salvation will come from the traditional American virtues of thrift and hard work, if only our citizens are allowed to manage for themselves.
The third crisis.
Wait. Aren't you forgetting something?
Forgetting something? We have film in the camera and tape in the recorder, don't we? What could I be forgetting?
The second crisis, the Great Depression. What happened?
Did the country survive?
Oh, that. If students are interested, teachers can fill them in, or they can do research for extra credit.
You described the outcome of the Civil War.
This is a short film. We could spend hours on each of these issues.
I will not continue.
Jefferson, let me tell you something. Performers are nothing. Talent is the easiest thing in the world to get. James Madison would have given anything to have gotten into this film. And I was just talking to Sam Adams' agent yesterday.
The country must have survived, or else he wouldn't be talking about another crisis.
He could treat us like human beings.
He said his power was more absolute than any king's.
It's tyranny, Alex, nothing less.
With your permission, gentlemen, the third crisis. The Vietnam War.
I will not hear about this war unless you tell us how the country survived the Depression.
I have prepared a speech and slides. Undoubtedly, the viewers of this film are looking forward eagerly to my presentation. So you will hear about and discuss the Vietnam War, whether you like it or not. Is that understood? The Vietnam War. In the last 2,000 years, Vietnam in Southeast Asia has been occupied over half the time by the Chinese, the Japanese, and the French.
Well, we agreed that he is a tyrant.
Agreed.
And it is better that we be destroyed than tyranny flourish.
Agreed.
You are with me, then?
I fought in the revolution. I'm prepared to fight now.
In 1957, guerrillas
Mr. Editor,
began a campaign of sabotage
whoever you are,
in the South. When the government
do to him what you did to Hamilton.
Already,
Top him off. Eliminate him.
Wipe despotism off the face of the earth.
In 1964, the number rose to 60,000.
Mr. Editor, he is worse than a tyrant. This man is a bore. The film would be better off without him.
Fighting an...
It worked. It worked. Now we have the responsibility of continuing on our own.
But we don't even know if anyone will hear us.
Does it matter?
I suppose not. I may as well begin.